In the exam hall, the girl's peripheral vision captures the passing figure of the teacher, after which she sways her waist ever so slightly, revealing a fleeting moment of bashfulness. Yet, the moment she lowers her head, the corner of her mouth curls into a smile that conceals a surging undercurrent. This is not the reverence a student feels for a teacher, but rather the predatory, possessive, and provocative gaze of a hunter who has fixed her sight on her prey. She seems to be silently declaring, "See, you cannot escape." This is a forbidden love with a 30-year age gap, as well as the tragic song of a man attempting to save a lost girl. When the forbidden epitaph is carved with 17 rings of time, every pursuit becomes a sacrifice to the abyss. Today, we are looking at the highly controversial film, Noche Blanche. The story takes place in a quiet town in France. Mathilde possesses a maturity and aloofness far beyond her years. She seems like an elf who has stumbled into this small town from another world, appearing completely out of place with everything around her. Her eyes often reveal a sense of decadence and disorientation. At school, skipping classes and being late are the norm for her, as she has absolutely no interest in studying. However, this time, Professor François no longer chooses to be indulgent, and after criticizing her in front of all the students, he kicks her out of the classroom. It is not until class is over and François drives away from the school that he unexpectedly spots Mathilde's figure on a bench at the bus stop. At this moment, Mathilde's face is deathly pale, and students who had discovered her earlier tell François that she fainted just after she started crying. François does not understand what Mathilde has gone through, as in his impression, she is just an unlearned and rebellious teenage girl. Seeing her in such a sickly state, he still takes Mathilde home out of concern. But after entering the door, the scene before him leaves François greatly shocked. Mathilde's home is devoid of life, with clothes and miscellaneous items scattered haphazardly across the floor. François wants to help her call a doctor, but Mathilde snatches the phone back. The girl's abnormal attitude causes François to feel suspicious. Thus, he goes to the school's archive room to investigate Mathilde's family background. The moment the file is flipped open, the prelude to their twisted emotional entanglement is also unveiled. It turns out that Mathilde's parents live in Paris, where her father is a psychiatrist who has never fulfilled his responsibility of caring for his daughter. Meanwhile, her mother, after losing a lover, suffered from a severe mental illness and attempts to take her own life every 2 months. Even worse, Mathilde has 2 brothers who have become the focus of police attention because of trafficking illicit goods. Now, Mathilde's records show she is failing multiple courses, facing the crisis of being expelled from school. A teacher nearby notices François' concern, but only coldly warns him to stay away from Mathilde. However, François cannot stop worrying about the solitary Mathilde at home, so he rushes to her house as soon as class is dismissed. Perhaps from this moment on, he has already unconsciously begun wanting to save this girl who has been ravaged by fate. François is the first person to truly care for Mathilde, and his appearance is like a beam of warm sunshine shining into her frozen inner world. She begins to feel an involuntary curiosity about everything concerning François, and her first question is,
Votre femme, elle fait quoi dans la vie?
Elle dirige sa librairie. Elle écrit aussi des articles pour le quotidien régional.
Et elle vous aime?
Bien sûr.
Racontez pas d'histoire, je connais pas mal de couples.
A sudden phone ring interrupts their conversation. The call is from François' wife, urging him to come home. François tells his wife that he will be back late and asks her not to worry about him. That night, François takes Mathilde to a restaurant, attempting to enlighten her and dispel the shadows and resentment left in her heart by her parents. François sees through her emptiness and loneliness, suggesting that he help her with tutoring so that she can enrich her life through learning. He also says that only education and a diploma will help her in the long run, allowing her to go further and live more comfortably. Although Mathilde looks at such words with utter disdain, she does not refuse.
Je vous aime bien. Parce que vous êtes comme moi. Vous êtes un mec tout seul.
When François drops her off at home, Mathilde kisses him before they part. François arrives home late at night, only to find a cold phone recording from his wife, Catherine, saying she has to work overtime and will stay at a hotel tonight instead of coming back. An undeniable disappointment appears on François' face. This seems to confirm Mathilde's suspicion that his marriage has long lost its passion, as he is often neglected due to his wife's work, making their state feel more like they are just housemates. Before class the next day, Mathilde promises she will come. François gazes at her empty seat, filled with expectation and worry. Finally, after the bell stops ringing, the classroom door is knocked upon.
Vous pouvez m'excuser, j'étais retenue par le prof de maths. Est-ce que vous m'acceptez?
Oui.
In this philosophy class, François poses a profound question regarding the subconscious. The students fall into deep thought, and the classroom is filled with silence. At this point, Mathilde suddenly raises her hand to speak, her voice crisp and firm, offering a very unique understanding of the subconscious.
Il y a des gens qui sont comme prisonniers de leur destinée. Ils rencontrent toujours les mêmes drames, les mêmes amours malheureuses. On a l'impression qu'ils sont le jouet de la fatalité. Pour la psychanalyse, ils sont prisonniers de leur inconscient.
Her novel perspective is full of critical thinking, making François' eyes light up. She is able to easily comprehend those obscure and difficult philosophical concepts. But at this moment, the primary motivation for Mathilde's willingness to learn
On peut se voir chez moi si vous voulez. Non, mais vous pouvez appeler pour me dire.
Vous me promettez de vous y mettre sérieusement?
Pour vous, je veux bien.
is François. What makes François even more convinced of Mathilde's extraordinary talent is that, in his subsequent interactions with her, he discovers the unique brilliance hidden beneath her rebellion. Although Mathilde is not interested in the school's regular curriculum, she possesses extraordinary talent and keen thinking in the field of philosophy, and her levels in English and mathematics are far beyond those of her peers. Soon, François helps her finish tutoring an entire semester's worth of courses, resolving the crisis of expulsion. However, during this process, their time spent together increases, and their understanding of one another deepens. The youthful vitality of Mathilde and her unique insights into life are like a spring breeze, quietly blowing into François' heart, which had long been sealed by a mundane life. Yet, he also deeply understands that this forbidden love with a 30-year age gap does not conform to social ethics and even violates the basic professional conduct of a teacher. But he cannot reject the vitality and charm bursting from within Mathilde. She is like a budding flower. François can admire her tenderness, her vitality, and the infinite possibilities she holds. But once the thought of plucking her arises, this ethically transgressive emotion is destined to end in tragedy. Similarly, for Mathilde, François' steadiness, restraint, and his meticulous care for her all make her feel an unprecedented warmth and respect. The two hearts gradually draw closer, and a subtle yet intense emotion quietly grows between them. Mathilde even begins making calls to François' home landline. Catherine also seems to have detected something unusual between François and the excellent student he mentions. Although the lies manage to appease his wife, they ultimately fail to pass the test of his own conscience. At this point, the phone calls between François and Mathilde become increasingly frequent, and their communication is no longer limited to academics. Until this day, François sees a group of hoodlums walking out of Mathilde's house. Jealousy and anger instantly surge into his heart, leading him to rush into Mathilde's home to make a scene where he hurls everything those people had used right out of the window. But faced with his frantic behavior, Mathilde is not angry. Instead, she says joyfully,
T'es jaloux?
Ils ont passé la nuit ici.
Te fâche pas, ça arrive souvent.
Tu te fiches de moi?
In this moment, the emotions in each other's eyes can no longer be suppressed. They cross the boundary between teacher and student, kissing passionately, and from then on, they fall into a forbidden love. Afterward, they begin dating frequently, rowing boats to enjoy the scenery, chasing each other on the grass, sharing their joys and sorrows, and discussing philosophical issues, feeling the resonance of their souls in the collision of thoughts. But when he returns home, he finds his wife has stayed up all night, waiting for him to come back. Catherine asks him if he was taking care of that female student all last night, and if he has fallen in love with her. Just as François is about to deny it, Catherine produces a letter which clearly states that François has fallen for another woman. But even so, François continues to argue stubbornly. He is unaware that this was written by Mathilde solely to possess François and to declare her sovereignty to Catherine. Mathilde's love for François grows deeper and deeper, and they even begin dating boldly within the school. One day, after the passion fades, Mathilde finally tells François about her tragic experiences. When she was 11 years old, her two brothers were sent to prison for trafficking illicit goods. They even went as far as forcing Mathilde onto the streets to bring home money in the darkest ways possible. Therefore, François' appearance is, to Mathilde, like a beam of light illuminating the darkness. However, reality stands between them like a cold and hard high wall. The massive age gap, François' existing marriage, and established social moral norms weigh down on them until they can hardly breathe. While enjoying his love with Mathilde, François simultaneously falls into a state of deep contradiction and struggle. He is well aware that his behavior violates moral ethics and feels deeply guilty toward his wife. Meanwhile, Catherine gradually confirms her husband's infidelity, and the conflict between them finally erupts. Catherine proposes that they separate for a period of time to allow herself to cool down while giving François a chance to think things through clearly. During the time Catherine is away, François blatantly brings Mathilde back to his home. In order to keep this light shining on her forever, Mathilde intends to take Catherine's place.
Flanque ta femme à la porte.
C'est pas possible.
Alors quitte-la. On vivra chez moi, c'est pas grand, mais on déménagera si tu veux.
C'est pas possible. Tu as 17 ans.
Et alors, je t'aime comme j'ai jamais aimé. C'est toi qui as fait de moi une femme.
Mathilde's love for François is intense and persistent, and she cannot tolerate François's hesitant attitude between her and Catherine. But François remains torn, as the struggle and conflict within his heart become increasingly fierce. Ultimately, François realizes that he cannot abandon the wife who has accompanied him for years and his stable life to pursue a controversial and uncertain love, and eventually, he returns to his family. However, François's decision is like a sharp blade that deeply pierces Mathilde's heart. Mathilde cannot accept François's betrayal, and her love instantly transforms into intense hatred as she becomes self-destructive once more, resuming a dissolute and unrestrained life. She quickly finds a new boyfriend and makes a point of being intimate with him right in front of François during class. Mathilde's boyfriend even tells François that Mathilde has now moved in with him. They indulge in public displays of affection right on the path François must take. She even makes piercing noises when François is the only one left in the classroom grading papers, intentionally letting François witness this unbearable scene. At the same time, Mathilde's retaliation against Catherine becomes even more extreme. She makes harassment calls late at night, disturbing the rest of both François and Catherine.
Qui est-ce?
Devine.
She also calls to insult Catherine and sends her threatening letters when François is not around. Facing Mathilde's relentless harassment, François finally finds himself unable to cope.
Flanque-la à la porte. Ou change-la de classe.
Just then, the piercing ring of the telephone sounds again. It is Catherine, calling to say that something very serious has happened, and asking François to come over immediately. It turns out that Mathilde has once again called upon some hoodlums to smash the glass of Catherine's shop and paint graffiti with personal attacks on the window. Even more excessively, she actually intends to kill Catherine.
Ce n'est pas tout. Quand j'ai pris la voiture tout à l'heure, quelqu'un m'est rentré dedans avec sa camionnette. On aurait dit qu'il m'attendait. Comme un coup ne suffisait pas, il a reculé à nouveau pour me rentrer dedans. J'ai cru qu'il allait me tuer.
Catherine lives in the shadow of fear and pain, her spirit nearly collapsing as her originally peaceful life is completely destroyed. Mathilde's actions cross François' bottom line. He forcibly pulls Mathilde into an empty classroom in front of everyone. Furious, François strikes Mathilde with 2 slaps. But instead of being angry, Mathilde says, "I love you," with deep affection. Afterward, she nestles into François' arms like a wounded bird and kisses his cheek. The suppressed love deep within their hearts is ignited once more. However, this scene is witnessed by a classmate who comes to the classroom to retrieve something. Suddenly, a thunderous roar of ridicule erupts outside the window. The news spreads through the entire school like wildfire. After this forbidden love is exposed, François receives severe punishment from the school and is sent to teach in another city. His marriage also completely shatters, as Catherine cannot forgive his betrayal and ultimately chooses to leave him. Mathilde, having lost both her love and her dignity, no longer possesses the courage to go on living. It is not until a year later that François receives a call from the police, learning the news of Mathilde's death. The location where Mathilde took her own life is in a dim, small room right next to his new residence. In the place closest to François, Mathilde ended her young and tragic life. She lies quietly on the bed, her face as pale as paper, looking like a sleeping angel. The landlord says she rented the place 2 months ago, never went out, and saw no one, living like a hermit. Every day she would just sit by the window looking out, relying solely on the landlord for food. When François walks toward the window, he sees a sight that is unbelievable to him. This window happens to face the position of the teacher's podium in the classroom where François teaches. And on the apartment wall is the final message written by Mathilde. "The ocean, François. there is the ocean. This last message is filled with endless sorrow and despair. In the film, the sea is a highly symbolic image. After waking up from a failed attempt to take her own life, Mathilde's mother once said that she felt as though she were in the middle of the ocean. For the mother, whose heart was as cold as ash, the sea meant liberation. And for Mathilde to mention the sea in her final message perhaps means she believes death is the only way for her to escape pain and achieve liberation. She once pursued love so intensely, sparing no cost for the sake of love, but ultimately lost herself in the vortex of love and moved toward destruction. What Noche Blanche presents is not just a forbidden romance, but rather feels like a profound exploration of human nature, morality, freedom, and many other philosophical questions. François struggles bitterly between love, morality, and responsibility. He craves the beauty and passion of love, yet cannot escape the shackles of social regulation and the guilt in his heart. Meanwhile, Mathilde is in constant conflict between the pursuit of romantic freedom and traditional social concepts. She pursues it bravely, yet meets with social disdain and rejection, being viewed as a moral outlier. Perhaps love is originally a riddle misplaced by the creator. Two hearts strike sparks in the dusk, thinking they can warm all the cold nights in each other's lives, only to grow into trees that face away from each other within the folds of the years. Thank you for joining me to watch another great movie, and I will see you in the next episode.